I'm the Sly Guy.
Hello and welcome to the SLY GUY Podcast with me, Dave Elliott. Oh no, I'm out of the studio again. Damn it. Listen, you all know that there's a really restricted lockdown again. It's not my fault, it's the government's fault. So if you want to have beef, write to your local MLA. In fact, do it. Fuck it. Let's be done with complaining to people and complaining on Facebook. Let's take action. Let's rise up. Write their MLAs and say, listen, can Dave go and do his podcast in the studio, please? Because we much prefer it. Now, albeit it's sweet for me because I'm in my house, I'm relaxing. I'm literally wearing no bottoms. I just have everything hanging out of my Manscaped balls and dick just airing themselves in the house. And it's nice. Now, you're probably going, that's inappropriate because you've got 2 young children. Yes, my friend, but they're in the garden. Now, are they in the garden playing? Nah, they're just in the garden, having a good time, living their best life. Freezing, just letting daddy do the podcast. And where's my wife? Also in the garden, locked out. They're locked out, they can't get me out. Oh, Akon, come back, man. That's what 2021 needs. Akon to return to save them. But anyway, we're still doing the podcast. Hopefully, now things will change. Hopefully the lockdown won't be as strict maybe in a week or two, once, the peak curves, once the peak curves a little bit drops, once it stops peaking and becomes a plateau and then starts de-escalating, it works. We'll be all good. But as it stands, you shouldn't be out of house. There's a curfew. It's like The Purge. I wish it was The Purge. Maybe that's what I should do. Accidentally watch The Purge and pretend that I just thought it was the news and then just go out and hey, but it is what it is, and we're here. And hopefully the content of the podcast, hopefully the sound of the podcast is of a good enough standard that you enjoy listening to it. And if you don't, write to your MLA. Say, let Davey in the studio and also sack Ben the snake wrap because he's the one responsible for sound. Will he argue that, oh no, Davey's the one that had to put his setup up, he had to put his recording together? Yes, but you know why? Because he's a pussy-ass bitch, all right? And that's what pussy-ass bitches do, blame other people. And you know what? If you want to be like, oh, excuse me, I thought you said you were a feminist and you're called pussy. Listen, you can be a guy pussy-ass bitch as well. It's gender fluid. A pussy-ass bitch is just somebody who just flits in and out of whatever gender suits the behaviour of a pussy-ass bitch. So don't at me, and if you do at me, you get one of those, which is a fucking stiff elbow to the keister, which is the butt. But hey, that's how I fight. I fight dirty, all right? I'm a dirty boy. Anyway, there we have it. Hopefully things will change. I did say, things would change. Speaking of changes, my wife has had the COVID vaccination. What about that? My wife, as you may know, if you're a regular listener of the show, if you're a patron, you'll know she is a nurse. She nurses people, and being a frontline worker, got that vaccine, and she's happy about it. She's happy to get the vaccine. I'm not, to be totally honest with you, because it means now she is controlled by the government. It means now the government have total control of her. It means she's been infiltrated by the government. It means Sammy Wilson lives with me. It means Marcin O'Mulier shares a kitchen with me. It means I am no longer safe or free from the government. That's the way it is now. Some people will argue that the vaccine is like going to stimulate your body to produce the antibodies necessary to fight off coronavirus. That's what some people would say. Some nerds would be like, this is going to build antibodies that'll help you get better and help you get back to normal. That's what people will say. They'll say, it'll help you get back to normal, but we all know that's fake. We all know that the government are tracking us. They don't already have enough information on us with our phones, with our emails, with our dental records or doctor records, or signing up the boohoo.com. Like they don't already know enough about us. They need some sort of like T1000 Terminator liquid fluid injection into us to be able to fully track us. Like satellites aren't enough, CCTV, not enough. This liquid fluid, which is taken from a clear vial and put into your, that's the tracking agent they need for their specific government satellites. Edwin Poots is there at Stormont watching you. To be fair, he mightn't be watching. He can definitely hear you, but he mightn't be he might be, but that's what the government are now doing. They control it. My wife is now a DUP slash Sinn Féin member. Now, I mean, that is very forward thinking, to be fair. That's a very, positive way to look at it. She's now both Sinn Féin and DUP, which some people might say is the worst combination. Other people might go very forward thinking, crossing the divide. But basically the government are now controlling her because that's what the vaccine's about. Now, all the other vaccines we get, like the flu, the BCG, which to be fair, scarred me up good and proper, that is fine. We'll take all those, but we're scared of this one. And now she's a government agent, so I'm just kind of stuffed. So basically for me, what I'm just going to do is just try to enjoy the rest of my life, whatever of it's left. Because, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen now, whether the government are just going to take over and my wife's going to turn into some sort of sociopathic, she's going to be a different kind of sociopathic maniac. She's not going to be the normal sociopathic maniac. She's going to be a special sociopathic maniac with the government behind her. Again, why the government want to stop this guy? Who knows? Why the government want to stop Billy in the street? Who knows? Why the government want to stop, I guess, to just, in fairness, killing in the street? Who knows? But that's what people are saying on Facebook. And if it's being said on Facebook by people on the dole, I'm listening. So there we have it. That's it. Yeah, my wife, sociopathic maniac, controlled by the government. There you have it. That's what she is. That's what I'm married to. That's fine. Now, that being said, just before she got the vaccine, I got a small victory over her. Now, again, if anyone out there is married, they will know the small victories, little battles here and there mean a lot. You don't always win the war, of course, but the little battles are very important, because what happened was my eldest daughter, who's 3, was being looked after by her granny, whatever. My wife took it upon herself to be like, right, we need to go for a walk, which is fine. Now, she wanted to go for a walk, and that was her prerogative. She said, listen, I fancy going on a walk, which I thought to myself, you do you, honey, boo-boo. Okay, you do whatever you want. That's cool. Then she says to me, you should come as well. Now, at that point, I absolutely 0% wanted to go on that walk. Those days where you're just exhausted, you could think of nothing you want to do less. It's like, nah, I really don't want to do it. And for some reason, you build up the courage to be truthful to your wife. Because listen, most of the time, we just lie for an easy life. Do you want to go to the park with the kids? Would you like to go? Would you like to go to the zoo? She would say to me, what would you like to do? Honestly, sit in my bed, get a wee nap, watch something on Netflix, play a bit of FIFA. Who knows? Just a bit of me time. Sometimes just a little bit of me, a little bit of me. But in that moment, I was like, you know what? I don't fancy going for a walk. And she was like, what? Why? And then what was bizarrely 0 to 100? Do you just want to sit here and die? And I was like, bit aggressive, how does that translate? She goes, if you don't get up and start exercising, you're gonna die. And I was like, oh, okay, so you've now decided after Christmas has passed that you want to start exercising. I have to want to do that too, neglecting the fact now we both have matching Fitbits, by the way, because there was a bit of, by the way, this is nothing, there's a bit of an issue between the two of us in that she thought my Fitbit, which was an older version, was fake and giving me higher scores and stuff than her, which she just didn't agree. Now the exact same model, still getting higher scores. But what she argues is because I've got short legs, I do more steps. Now, to be fair, very short legs, longer upper body. My legs are actually swinging in the seat right now, and that's fine, but it is the case. And as well as doing steps, the Fitbit manages other things, such as your sleep. Now, the previous night before this big walk, what did old Muggins here get sleep? 5 hours, 5.5 hours, something like that. That was probably about the 4th consecutive night of about 5.5 hours. Eventually, this big juggernaut just needs to be put into the garage and just left on, get the wee electric charger in, leave him be for a couple of days, let him recharge. I say a couple of days, probably just an hour. Just give me an hour's peace, please. That'll be fine. Well, she get 9.5 hours that night. So she's rested, ready to go. I was up with babies. I was knackered. One of the kids is away. I was like, you know what? I don't want to go for a walk. And I was like, trying to do it in such a way where it wasn't being negative. I was just like, nah, if you want to go, I just thought we could do it as a family. I'm like, yes. You did think that, but not going to happen. On a side note, I had just been to the dump with the Christmas rubbish. So like I had a full car full of Christmas rubbish. I'd been to the dump, I'd sat in the queue, I'd watched the rain absolutely beat down in the window. I got out to throw in the dump, got soaked, came back, was like, it's raining excessively out there. It's far too wet to go for a walk. And she was like, no, I went out to the bins there and it was only drizzle. And I was like, yes, you walked probably 2 meters to the bins, which were protected and covered. Yet I was out in the elements, soaked. She's like, no. And I said, right, okay, let's go for the walk then. And she was like, right, okay, I've got this route in my head. And I was like, oh, I have a route in my head too, and it's you. But she goes, I have this route in my head. It takes an hour and a half. I was like, an hour and a fucking half in the rain? Are you mad? But in my head, I went, are you fucking, an hour and a half? Are you fucking mad? What I said was, maybe a bit long. Could you not go for a shorter walk? Once again, and by this point, she's at the pram. Do you just want to die? Do you just want to die? I've decided I'm going to die. Now you're just the big fattest pig ever. And it's like, hold on. Literally a day ago, we were just scooping camembert into each other's mouth with our fingers. That was what we were at a day ago. Now you've decided, cleanse. I have to be involved. I was just like, listen, and in my head, I'm like, if you go for this hour and a half walk, I'll get probably an hour's sleep, which will take me up to like 6 hours sleep, which might make me feel a little bit more energetic. So ultimately what happened there was I was like, I don't want to do it. And then we went for the walk anyway. So it was one of those scenarios, where you're there, you're arguing with your wife, your partner, whatever, and there's always one who's the boss. Now I put my hands up and say, she's the boss. Like, she is great. She is the captain of this ship. She is, again, always front and center. I like to use the analogy that she of football. If we're going back to, again, some people may get this, some won't, to the 1998 World Cup, my wife is Zinedine Zidane. She's front and center, the skill, the control. This guy, Didier Deschamps. I do stuff behind the scenes. All the jobs that you just take for granted that are gross, emptying the bins, washing the baby's bottles, feeding the baby, all that kind of stuff. I just do stuff which is like, it's below, it's not flashy. She does a wash, to be fair to her. She puts on a wash and she's like fucking doing Cruyff turns like Zidane and all, does that and praising about it. I just do all the under the ground stuff. I just do that. It's fine. It's busy. And it's grand. That's the way it works. It's good. But sometimes you have to defend. And sometimes it's like, nah, I don't really want to go for the walk. So then we got out for the walk. All right. We probably got, I'd say, now this is an hour and a half walk, probably get 10 minutes into it. And she was like, I'm sorry, I was wrong. And I went, oh, really? Why is that? She goes, it's raining really heavily. And I was like, oh, what made you think that? And he's like, oh, it's the fact that I'm wearing 4 layers. They're soaked through. I've got a bobble hat on and the bobble is now matted down my face. I was like, hey, listen, at that point, you're no longer annoyed. You don't want to argue. You're just sort of happy to revel in the fact that you were right. You're just happy to go, well, there you have it. Now, to be fair, once I went on the walk, it was pleasant. What I will say, though, I was fully soaked through completely from head to toe. I did ruin my favourite pair of shoes because I said to her, listen, I don't think we should. They're ruined now. I'll have to order a new pair, which is like 70 quid, which is a bollocks, but it is what it is. And again, I would take my clothes being ruined to, prove my point to be right. And that was what we did. That was how we celebrated the gap between Christmas and New Year, by going for that walk. Now, the one thing is I've got leverage now, so I can use that to my benefit between now and just be like, listen, remember the last time? And I was proved right. And that does happen a lot with us. We will often be in a scenario whereby my wife will make a decision. If I disagree with it, I go along with it more often than not, just to prove myself to be right. Because I know, listen, if you know something for a fact, you go along with it and then you're proved right. Now, there are very few, there are the odd occasions where I'm not right, but I'm never wrong. All right. But there's that. So it was a nice victory to hold over. But again, she means well, has these big ideas in her head. This next walk, it'll be all good with the family. Without a 3-year-old, which is sly because she would ruin everything. She ruins everything. We went to Mount Stewart and she just screamed the whole way around. I had to carry her. That's another reason why sometimes I don't like going on these activities, because I end up with a short straw, just carrying a body around me. And sometimes it's a bit tiring. Like, see, why don't you enjoy this walk? Because I'm trailing a 4-stone person over my shoulder. That's why. Why did you do it? Oh, I couldn't. I'm not strong enough. And I'm like, exactly. You're walking around there with this real designer pram looking all sweet and all. Like, life's great. I'm sweating, dragging this bag of spuds. It's flipping all over the show. Screaming in my ear. It's stressful. What I need is some downtime. Now, what I will say, My wife is away out with both kids for a walk now without me. But what am I doing? Recording a podcast. And then before I recorded this podcast, I recorded a video, which is going to be over on Patreon, which is just where I ate the hottest sauce in the world. And I'm actually, I could be dead. Could be dead now. That's how I feel. My mouth burnt, my eyes burnt. I cried, I sweated. It was a real eventful moment. But that's what we like to do. It's coming to the end of the year. 2020 is a year that it's fair to say it's not been ideal. It's not been ideal. It's one of those scenarios, we've spoken about this in the podcast before, whenever I knew, again, like arguing with your wife, 2020 was a year that as soon as you realize you're not going to beat it, you just have to go along with it, just ride that wave. And I was able to use the year to get a few wee projects I just didn't really have the time to do done. Like this podcast. I was able to move this podcast to the studio, and now 2020 is shitting on me again that I can't be there. But hopefully, it'll be another couple of weeks. I respect the snake rat enough that, I wouldn't want to put him or his family in any risk, but it is what it is. So we're here again. Hopefully it'll not be the full 6 weeks, maybe 1 or 2. I'll try to convince him each time I pay him more, might get him full PPE. Who knows? But that's, where we're at the minute. In 2020, it's been a year that a lot of people will forget, but I think it's like anything, you need to look at the positives. There are things that I hope people can take from this year that maybe will not take for granted in the future. The big thing of 2020 is I announced a show in the Ulster Hall. So for next year in 2021, people can be like, I really love my family, and to show my love for my family, I'll buy tickets to Dave's show. Also, as well as that, what you could do is just say, listen, we've been together a lot this year. We've learned a lot about each other. Let's enjoy the moment. Let's go on the holidays we were putting off. Let's do the things we wanted to do. Let's live for the moment instead of living for the future, because who knows what the future holds? Why am I so wise when I'm so dense? That's it. Do that. Be positive, but let's also be aware of the negatives, and let's sort of, try and stop those as well. For example, one of the big things I've seen in 2020 that I'm not a fan of is sea swimming. Now, some people are going to be out there going, what? You don't like sea? Just because you would never? Who would want to sea swim? Seriously, what do you get out of sea swimming other than just something to post on social media? Because that's it. Like, no one just goes sea swimming for the crack. Like, nobody just goes sea swimming because they genuinely want to go sea swimming. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't seem like a day passes now without someone putting like, oh, I'm in the sea. It's like, good, stay there. Stay there, get pneumonia, don't come out. Go into the sea with shackles on, please, because you're a prick. It just seems to be like sea swimming overcompensates for people who are boring. They put stuff up. Oh, look at me, I'm mad. Maybe if you were like 14 and that was mad. But when you're 38, stop it. Stop doing that kind of thing. You know what I mean? And especially when people are posting them, like, fair enough if you're like up the north coast or somewhere where the sea is the sea and it's grand. People are swimming in Belfast Loch like it's fucking Mexicanos. They're in there like, oh, I'm just like, no, it's a shipping channel you're swimming in. You go in there, swim about, and come out with an extra ditty. It's not wise. It's not going to be nice. You come out there and be like, oh, is this seaweed? No, it's a rubber Johnny filled with spunk. That's not ideal. Some people will come out and be like, oh, no, they've got this condom in my throat. Other people will be like, fruit. But each to their own. Stop sea swimming. It's bad for you. You get rashes. You get skin disease. You get raw sewage all up on yourself. But hey, if it's worth it to get a photo of you in a Santa hat being mad, do it. Because that's what it is. People just want to be mad. And people think they're mad. Oh, he's so mad. It's like, oh, it's always people that do mad things or people who are like overcompensating for something else, who maybe are just boring guys. Like, I put my hands up and admit I'm a boring guy, but I'm comfortable with being a boring guy. I can come on this podcast, I can rant, I can be bitter, I can get it off my chest and I feel great. I don't have to do weird things like sea swimming or Movember. It's like always the mad people that go, oh, look at him, he's got he's done a Movember. Oh, look at that guy, he's got a mullet. You're so mad, aren't you? Fucking dicks. Just go and do something. Go and achieve something. Roll into 2021 ready to smash it. Smash 2021 like Trump smashed 2020. The guy, the champion, our leader and supreme hero of the world, Donald, will stay in. He will win another 4. Yes. Not going to happen. But that's it. That's where we're at. I'm trying to think of the good things that have happened. All to me, 2020 has been the fastest year in history. It's just happened. Like I remember with the beginner, like, yeah, probably get a few days off work here with this COVID. Boom, a year later, we're still working from home, which is not ideal, but, you know, there are positives out of it. So what I want people to do is in the new year, just fucking go into it. Now, I've said before on podcasts, I'm not a resolution guy. I just try to set goals for myself and try to get them, you know, as best I can, because I don't want to change who I am, because I am perfect. You know, I am the poster boy of what a perfect guy could be. You know, I'm just a really cuddly, bear, happy, friendly, non-bitter dude. You know, just be more like me. Be more Davey. You know, in 2021, be more Davey. Listen to my podcast, subscribe to them, share them out across the world, subscribe to my Patreon, buy tickets to my show at the Ulster Hall. Be more Davey. And also give less of a fuck, because that's when the true happiness arrives. I watched the show last night about Take That, and it was great because I'm a fan of Take That, first and foremost. And secondly, it was just good to see them all chatting, and the difference between them being boys whenever they all split up in the first instant, they hating each other, they just being like content, grumpy old men. And that's what happens when you get older. You just become content with things. You know, they're like, in it, they're like Gary Barlow was like, I really hated you, Robbie, at the time. You took away our band. And then Howard Donald was like, yeah, at the time I didn't like you, Robbie, because you took away my band. And then I went to Mark Owen, and he was like, I didn't like you at the time, Robbie, you took away my band. And it was just really weird. But then at the end, they were like, but now we're back to being brothers again. But now we're back to being brothers again. But now we're back to being brothers again. And it was great to see. But that's just, you take the hate and you live with it. You just be like, you know what? I was getting stressed out because arguments are this. Arguments are two people being selfish, wanting what they want. And that's it. So as sometimes, like whenever you have arguments with your mates, I remember where I used to get wild FOMO, you know, fear of missing out of things when there were nights out when I was younger. I was like, oh no, there's this, and I need to go. And then you go out and it's kind of a bit shit. And it's like whenever your friends are saying to you, you need to come out, mate, you have to come out. And you're going, I don't really want to come out. And he goes, no, you have to go out. If you think about it, it's your mate going, I want you to do something. And then your counter argument is, but I don't want to do something. So what makes his want for you to do something more important than your want not to do something? You know what I mean? So then once you come to terms with that, with age, you realize, you know what? The Rolling Stones were right when they said you can't always get what you want. And that's true. But sometimes it's all about compromise. Pick your battles. Strike when you can. Whenever the shoulder's down, hit them with that. You're all gravy. You know what I mean? But I think that's happens when you get older. And I think that's something that I've learned this year is I'm an old guy and I just need to focus on being the best version of me and then doing what I can do. Hence the big show next year. It's up to me to do it. I don't care what anyone else is doing. Good luck to everybody that's doing their own thing. Focus on me. Push that. Let's see what we can do. Let's make this podcast as good as can do. Let's all do that. Now, this positivity may very well only last until maybe next week, but we're going to roll with it. And by the way, I've got a wee bit of stomach upset at the minute. I did a video, it's over on my Patreon, where I just ate a load of really hot sauce and I'm not feeling too good. I feel like my bunghole is going to be in a bit of a state too. So I'm a little bit concerned, you know, about that. And apologies for the slight belch that I delivered there. That was not intended, and I am mortally embarrassed about that. But yes, speaking about Patreon, there is a bonus episode that goes out every week on Patreon. It's kind of like this, only it's a bit more interactive with listeners. Now, albeit this week the listeners and the Patreons were shit and asked me very few questions. And I'm like, hey, I've been sitting here from Christmas for 2 days doing fuck all, ask me questions. But normally the questions are a bit more kind of personal. We go into things a bit more. I dish out a bit more goss, you know, throw in a wee bit of shade. It's a nice time. And there's going to be more going out there. The new podcast coming out in February as well, only on Patreon there. I've got this additional content coming out as well. So it's a nice time. It's only like five quid or whatever. And you get all this extra content. And again, I'm trying to make it more patron driven now, where if people want stuff, to let me know what they want and I'll give it you. You know what I mean? And speaking of giving it you, this podcast would not be giving it to you or by you if it wasn't for the sponsors. which, of course, you know by now, Bebe, Adrianos, Mexicanos. Bebe Adrianos provides good quality food using only the freshest local produce. Everything is prepared and cooked from scratch on the premises. Listen, a lot of people are like, oh my God, my Christmas stomach, my weight, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to be eating nice food anymore. I'm going to be super strict. I'm only eating greens and chicken. Bebe Adrianos has your back covered. You know why? Because they make healthy, delicious food. That being said, they've also been nominated for Northern Ireland's healthiest takeaway at the Northern Ireland Takeaway Awards, which are going to be happening in January. So hopefully by the time we're back in the studio, they'll have won the award. And if they haven't, I demand a recount. It's fake news. You know, it's great. They've got everything you want. Burritos, fajitas, salad bowls, special box meals. There's something for everybody. And listen, if you still want a wee bit of a treat, if you're not, going new year, new me, all that shit, you want to just be dirty, there's nothing dirtier than a dirty cock and cow box, which you get at Bebe Adrianos. It's fries, sweet potato fries, Mexican chicken, marinated steak, peppers, onions, dressed lettuce, sweet corn salsa, tomato salsa, and a choice of sauce. And you know what the big guy recommends? Smoked paprika, baby, because it's some fire shit, right? If you haven't already tried Bebe Adrianos, what are you waiting for? Get their app from the App Store and get 10% off your first order. It's that easy. Or if you want to be personable like me and you want to ring them, get the mobile phone, dial 028 9147 9988. That's 028 9147 9988 for that Mexican hookup. SLY Guy Podcast is also brought to you by the masters of shave balls and dicks. Yeah, Manscaped. They haven't actually told me to sing that. I'm just the man who makes the song. The masters of shave balls and dicks. Do you want to do a bit more rocky? I can do the masters of shave balls and dicks. Yeah, that's what they're all about. Guys, 2020 sucked. All right, it's almost New Year, which means new balls. I mean, not technically, it's not tennis, but Manscaped is the best in below-the-waist grooming, offering precision-engineered tools for your family jewels and helping 2 million men all over the world who are all listeners to this podcast get rid of hair on their balls. If you let yourself go in 2020 in quarantine, Manscaped's there for you for a reboot to stay clean and shaved in 2021. Listen, I hated my balls in 2021. I looked at them and went, I wish you were bald. You know, the opposite of what I've said to my own face in the mirror. I wish you weren't bald, but I wish my balls were bald. I love looking down, seeing my balls being bald. I just love it. It's amazing. It's smooth. It's gorgeous. And Manscaped are here to give you that fresh start with their perfect package 3.0. They're all about the numbers, not 1, not 2. It's all about 3.0. That's all the right tools for the job. Come out of quarantine with clean balls thanks to the Lawnmower 3.0. The waterproof skin-safe trimmer will reduce nicks on your two best friends, Phil and Grant, your bollocks. This third generation trimmer has a light that gives you the glow up you need in 2021. So you can see all the nooks and crannies. You can get the base pubes. You can get the undercarriage pubes. You can get the taint pubes. You can get the bell end pubes if you're really old, I'm so told. And you can get them all. And just make sure that your boys are refreshed and ready for new beginnings in 2021. Manscaped will even throw in the Shed travel bag to keep all your goodies stored comfortably. Speaking of comfort, the Manscaped anti-chafing boxer briefs are also included. This is amazing. Get over there, get rid of your hairy balls, end 2020, throw them in the back of the boot with your balls, and just say, listen, I'm not going to be that guy with a hairy ball bag. Fuck Bush. Bush is so last year. I'm a Trump guy. Get it, or Biden, rat-a-tat-tat. Get it sorted. Get yourself 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with the code SLYGUY. That's all capitals, SLY Guy. Whether this is for your partner, your dad, your brother, your friend, get them something that they will definitely use and ask them to show you that they've used it. Say, Dad, you shaved your pubes, you dirty bastard. And they'll go, haven't done it yet. Show us your dick, Dad. Look at your dad and go, here, Daddy, show me your dick, will you? And you can do that with the code SLYGUY at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with the code SLYGUY. Be the ballsiest gift giver ever, man, with Manscaped. And the SLY Guy Podcast is also brought to you by Modest Beer. Why am I coughing up so much this episode? Woo! Modest are an independent brewery crafting small batch beers for discerning drinkers. They are brewed and canned in Hollywood County Down, and they're on a journey with one clear goal in mind, not to revolutionise the craft beer movement, niche, but to add to it with an amazing, joyous, responsible, honest and modest brand. If you're keen to know more, contact Modest Beer on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter at Modest Beer. Give them a follow, say the SLY Guy sent you, or go to modestbeer.co.uk to find your nearest stockist. Now, they've also got a fucking stout out at the minute. oh shit, and it's some stuff. It's like a stout with a wee bit extra, because it's 6%. Oh shit, that is powerful stout. That's going to make you. You're going into 2021 with a full belly, a Mexican, a fucking shaved balls and dick, and just a fucking stout pout. Mwah. That's what I want to see. I want to see photos of people with the stout around their lips. I want them to drink the modest stout, do the stout pout. That's what I want to see. Listen, we're starting a thing. Get it out there. It's all good, baby. Well, I've been chatting for half an hour. Sweet. It means I'll blast through listeners' questions on to the next one. Here, guys, if you haven't already, please rate and review the podcast. I want to read your reviews. I want them to be silly, but also nice. Help a brother out. You know what I'm saying? No gnomes. What's a secret conspiracy you would like to start? My secret conspiracy I would like to start is the conspiracy that people that spread conspiracies are mental. There you go. Shocker alert. You know what? The conspiracy theory guys that are out there talking about conspiracies, they don't leave their house. I want to tell you a story about a guy who I knew. And I say knew, he was a guy that I dealt with in work. What did he do? He said that the government were under complete surveillance of this guy. He's a weird guy. That's fine. Went out to his house because a neighbour was complaining about him. Went into his house. I was like, what's going on? He goes, yeah, apparently the neighbour was like, apparently this guy's pumping drugs up through the roof and it's making me high as fuck. And I was like, oh wow, that's definitely a bizarre complaint. But I went to the guy downstairs. I was like, hey man, you're not pumping drugs up there, that guy upstairs, are you? And he was like, no, I'm not. I said, it's a weird noise. What's happening in the background there? And he's like, oh, I've got the tap on. I was like, all right, okay, you cooking up something, having a cup of tea? He goes, nah, I just keep the tap on all the time. I was like, why is that? Oh, because the government are trying to poison me with fluoride in the water. And I was like, yes, of course they are. Looking around this guy's house, immaculate. Everything's in order, but there's nothing to be seen. What I did notice, I looked down at plugs, because again, in my job, I was very much like Dexter. Not Dexter, that's wrong. I was like Sherlock. I looked around to try and get clues as to what was happening, because I dealt with antisocial behaviour. That's fine. I realised all his plugs were covered with gaffer tape. And I was like, what's all going there? And he's like, oh yeah, I just stopped the radio waves and microwaves from the government getting into me. And I said, okay, that's kind of mad. And then in his kitchen, he had like a mattress on the floor and like stuff over the top, and everything he had a tinfoil around it. And I was like, you do know that's a conductor and all that, but I didn't want to get into that. And he's like, yeah, the government are trying to take me over. And I was like, all right, that's pretty mad, but fair play to you, good luck, you're causing no harm, leave to it. Again, a bit more time passes, the guy rings back up. This time we'll go up to the guy upstairs, who I forgot to mention before was bald. This time around he's wearing a full mask. He's ahead of his time maybe for corona. This guy's poisoning me with drugs. I'm wearing a mask. He's a big muscle guy, looks like Bean, got the mask on. He's like, you're poisoning me. And I was like, that sounds pretty out there, guy. And he's like, yeah, well, I'm going to my doctor about this. I'm going to get him to test the mask. You'll see there's cannabis and weed in that mask, and I'll be proven right. What actually did happen was he went to the doctor with the mask on, like being the doctor did a test, no cannabis, weed, sectioned for his own benefit. Good news story. Went back down. He was like, yeah, so he's pumping the drugs through, and he's been up banging all night. And I went, playa. And he goes, no, not that kind of banging. He goes, literal banging. He had a hammer. He's banging. And I go, that's kind of weird. I wonder what he's at. Went down into his house, like, hey man, a lot of banging last night. What's been going on? And he was like, hey, not that kind of banging. And I was like, I know, because I would have been like, playa. But he's like, listen, what I've done, obviously, as I was building a hut in my spare room so I can get in there and hide from the microwaves of the government trying to pollute my mind. And I went, okay, nice. He brought me in this room. It was like something from Dexter. There was plastic sheeting all around the place. It was flipping all there. Just this wee tin hut in the middle of it. And I was like, this is weird. This looks like a murder room with a tin hut in it. And the guy was like, yeah, what I do basically is just come in here, close the door, protect myself from the government. Now, what the point of that story is, that's a conspiracy guy who's let things get too far. That's a real life story, 100% by the truth. I could tell you the guy's name, but don't want to get sued. Another thing he does, wears a hat all the time with tinfoil in it. Stop wearing conducting materials, you doofus. Stop thinking the government care about day-to-day guys. They don't. They care about big business. They care about making money. They care about being crooks. They don't care about us making an honest living unless you got a dodgy hard drive. And a lot of conspiracy guys, dodgy hard drives. Boom, boom, boom. Why am I dabbing so much? I'm buzzing after all that hot sauce. Thanks for the question. No, mums, you got me buzzing. Woo! Owen Kelly says, all right, Dave, huge thanks for the Christmas miracle that was your reunion with the world's youngest pensioner and the birth of Butterworth. Very, very funny. That was the Boytown podcast. Listen, I am a wild guy. Shane is afraid to podcast with me because I'm so wild. I say things that might get him into trouble because he, wants to be a TV presenter. He wants to be a clean-cut presenter guy. He wants to be like Patrick Kilty wants to marry a nice presenter, even though he's married and his wife's amazing. He wants to marry Maya Jama, and that's what he wants to do. And I mean, I'm going to be the virus that brings him into the world with me and make him do Boytown again. Not really, we're not doing that again, but I'm glad you enjoyed it. But one of my main challenges is dealing with lockdown is that my parents can in fact be raging fascist Tory bastards. How would you deal with that? You know what? I'd say, listen, politics is politics. People who are politicians are all crooked. You don't be a politician unless you take a brown envelope. If you want to do something real in the world, be a comedian, put your message out via this medium. That's what we're all about. I just think any politician dodgy in some way. But the Tories, this is the thing with politics, right? Throughout history, one regime fucks everything, then the other regime comes in to try and fix it and inevitably fucks it. It's just a continual rotation of people fucking everything. Don't trust any of them. They're all fucking it all up. Everyone fucks everything. And if your parents want to be fascists, let them live. They'll be dead soon and you'll have their inheritance. Boom! Why am I dabbing? Stop that. John Joe Flood, the sensei himself, thank you very much for the hat. I'm going to wear it in the next podcast, and I'll wear it today because it's too sweaty after taking some hot sauce on board. He says, hey, and Davesh, I've been listening to a lot of noughties R&B over the Christmas period. I love that. If you're horny, get to it. Ride my pony. Love it. Just wondering if you could maybe furnish us with a quick Neo cover and drop in a quick Dizzy Rascal interlude for good measure. What does Neo like to sing? And I'm so sick of love songs, so sad of tears, so done with wishing you were still here. And I'm so sick of love songs, so sad and so why did I turn off the radio? What about that remix up? Yeah, that was nice. Jack Core said, what was Epstein's Island like with Tim McGarry? Listen, there's been a lot said about my comments about Tim McGarry and Epstein's Island. People are mistaken what I said and quoting me wrong. I did not say I was on the island with Tim McGarry. I said Tim McGarry told me he was on the island with Epstein, right? That's what I said. Get your facts right. So I don't know, but I will ask Tim. I know Tim's having a bit of downtime here at the minute, so I might send him a text, wish him well, and be like, here, what went on the island there? Tim, you need to tell me. Andy Lee says, good evening, the North Down Bulldog, Davy Boy Smith. Hope you and the family had a lovely Christmas. With the feasting of Christmas, I am partial to a bit of sausage meat, stuffing in the turkey. Our whole family is. Can you imagine the shock when my wife, on our first Christmas married 2 years ago, informed me that her family doesn't do stuffing on Christmas dinner? Whoa. Naturally, an annulment of the marriage was considered. That's what I'm talking about, Andy. But this year I succeeded in converting her to the ways of the stuffing. Listen, if one thing I can always say, your wife needs a good stuffing, all right? And it's up to you. You give her that stuffing, Andy, all right? Give her it. Make her love it and make it taste great. So naturally, the leftovers go in a sandwich. But what is your ideal leftover sandwich? See, this year, my dad, every year from about the last 5 years, has brought me a cooked ham, and nothing brings joy to my heart more than getting a cooked ham at Christmas. So what I do is I just have the cooked ham sandwiches when I'm drinking my Baileys and my wine, and it's a great time. So with leftovers this year, I had the classic bread, turkey, ham, bit of gravy, bit of stuffing. I know that, and some people call that the moist maker. They call the sandwich the moist maker. I call my coupon the moist maker, if you know what I mean. But that is ideal, and I wouldn't mind a wee chipolata on the side. Just the suck or whatever. Phil McSee said it's curfew. It's curfew time. When you know it's time to curfew. When you know it's time to curfew. When it's curfew time. Ooh. My question is, do you reckon you would have abided by the 8 p.m. curfew if you were prime Hallion age? I'm sure there'll be plenty of underground NYE parties, despite the obvious super spreader risk. Listen, my man, what I want to say to you is when I was younger, I was always the careful guy that got into trouble. I was always the one that tried to avoid trouble and inevitably got into trouble. And then when I got this sort of prime messer age, I was a bit of a scamp. But again, I think I would just stay in, because again, I always enjoyed my own company. I always enjoyed playing video games. I've probably just done that when it was all over, gone and made your piss up. Or alternatively, just drank a bottle of Buckfast and a bottle of Blue Aftershock and then some Goldschlager and just passed out in my bedroom. My dad would have had to put me to bed. That would have been good New Year's Eve for me. But I've never been a big New Year's Eve fan. I've always found it to be overrated, boring, too expensive, and hard to get home. Much rather just be in the gaff. And 100% this New Year's Eve, I'll be asleep by midnight because I'm 34. I mean, come on. Get on with it. Michael, the Dean of Mean, Jardine, has said, who's the sexiest loyalist paramilitary, living or dead? And why is it Doris Day Gray? Also, we've seen this cool documentary on UDA hardman Sam McCrory. Also, I've seen a really cool UDA document on Sam McCrory as well. But yeah, I mean, Doris Day definitely had the best style. He was definitely popping. He was a bit of a nature boy. He had the pastel shirts, the curtains. But I must admit, I am a fan of the more uniform look of just skinhead, bit of an earring, and a bit of a tan, a bit of muscle. I'm all about that Stone Cold Steve Austin style paramilitary look. I think Doris Day stood out with his nature boy looks, but I'm more about Stone Cold. So I think the generic shaved, bald, tan look, you can't go amiss. And have I seen that documentary? Yes, very enjoyable. Sam McCrory enjoyed the finer things in life, and by that I mean other guys. Fair play, each their own. Trevor McMinn said, have you ever tried a moist maker? Listen, said before, the coupons of the moist maker, but I have tried a moist maker, and I've actually tried it in Pug Uglies, and even though I'm affiliated with them, 10 out of 10 would recommend. Check that out next Christmas. Ben Lonsdale has asked, how did you and Shane meet? Basically what happened, they accidentally flicked the lights on in Pipeworks when we were in the dark sauna together, and we're like, oh no, you're that guy from that thing. And he's like, you're that guy from that thing too. And I went, oh no. And we just became mates. That's the true story, but what other people will say that we really met at the Edinburgh Fringe when I was there with FNT and he was there by himself. So, that's probably where we really met. And yeah, our friendship blossomed from there. And we're kind of like brothers now because we love each other and we hate each other. So that's fair. Nathan has said to me, I was just checking the time of the podcast there because there's no Ben here. Nathan Concelia said to me, hey Davey, we all know about the dictator bathroom, but would you ever add a serial killer scullery? Perhaps you could have some tasteful lamps by Ed Gein, or the Albert Fish slice, or the Edmund Kettle. I mean, the Edmund Kettle, obviously a reference to Edmund Kemper there. Cheers and keep pumping. Albert Fish, don't like Albert Fish as a serial killer. I think he's a gross guy. I don't like serial killers that kill kids. That freaks me out a bit because I'm a dad now. Don't mind people that just kill. Again, people that kill women, also a bit sly. They kill dudes, sweet. Like Jeffrey Dahmer, top guy, whatever. But would I have a scullery? No, because it would scare me. Ed Gein should probably, get a job in IKEA or somewhere. Like he is other. Like I feel Ed Gein was probably not so much a killer or a psycho pervert dude, but more so a frustrated designer. I feel like he lived in, I think it was Illinois, was it Wisconsin? He was in Wisconsin, probably Plainfields, Wisconsin. That's where he was from. What a memory. And he, didn't really have access to the finest fabrics to make, cushions or lamps. So he just, what is his nearest resource? Human bodies. Dig them up, make them into pillows. Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt, and Fanny's also your lamp. So, that's probably what he's at, but I wouldn't do the scullery. It would frighten me. But what I am doing is a serial killer podcast. So keep an eye out February. Anyway, and last but not least, Red 13. Do you like dogs? Red, I do. And I can see by your picture, you've got that big red dog as your profile picture, which is respectable. Clifford the big red dog, but he looks pretty mean because it's the live action version. Whatever, fair play to Clifford. But yeah, guys, that is the end of the podcast. I've said what I want to say. I don't want to just do another podcast where you recap the year and talk about whatever. I just want to be silly. So what I want to say to you guys is, listen, we're through 2020. We've got through it together. You, me, the squad. We're there. We've done it. We're on to next year. Let's go into next year with our heads held high. Look forward. Let's do what we can do. Let's look after each other. And I mean, everyone's New Year's resolution, even though I don't do them, should be subscribed to this podcast, rate and review it, and buy tickets to my Ulster Hall show. Because that's what I want to do. The sooner I sell that baby out, the sooner I don't have to talk about it, the sooner you won't see me posting about it, and the sooner I'll just have a really good show for you. So guys, listen, let's enjoy ourselves. Let's not go wild. Let's not get too stressed out. Let's make 2021 a year to remember. And let's just keep washing our hands and shaving our balls and wearing our masks and looking after our grannies, all right? I hit the ground so hard on my big stumpy foot there that I have actually caused vibration throughout the entire room. And that's what we're all about here. Guys, listen, take care of yourself. Godspeed. Happy New Year. Support local comedy. And, vote for whoever you want to, because I can go fuck. Take care. Godspeed. Be real. Stay gangster. Whatever.
I'm the sly guy.